Welcome back to EtherLink AI Insights. I'm Alex, and today we're diving into something that's going to shape the next 18 months for tech enterprises across Europe: AI governance and EU AI Act readiness, especially for companies in Eindhoven. By August 2026, the EU AI Act hits full enforcement, and frankly, the stakes couldn't be higher.
Thanks, Alex. And what's wild is that most enterprises aren't ready yet. Gartner's data shows fewer than 35% of Eindhoven businesses have even mapped their AI governance maturity. We're talking about a massive compliance deadline in 18 months, and a huge gap between innovation velocity and actual readiness.
That gap is the real story here, isn't it? Eindhoven's known as Europe's brightest tech hub: semiconductors, software, industrial IoT, but you're saying most of them are flying blind when it comes to governance?
Exactly. McKinsey's 2024 data shows 67% of global enterprises have adopted AI somewhere in their operations, but only 28% have formal governance frameworks. In the EU specifically, it's even worse. Just 22% report high AI governance maturity. That's a problem because the EU isn't messing around with enforcement.
Let's talk about what's actually changing in 2026. What do enterprises need to understand about the enforcement timeline?
The EU AI Act has been phased in, but August 2026 is the real line in the sand. That's when the comprehensive framework becomes legally binding. We're talking transparency requirements, documentation, algorithmic impact assessments, the whole infrastructure. And this isn't theoretical. The penalties are brutal.
How brutal are we talking?
Up to $30 million or 6% of global revenue, whichever is higher, for prohibited AI systems. But even for high-risk systems that don't fall into prohibited categories, you're looking at conformity assessments, transparency logs, and human oversight protocols that cost real money to implement. And if you wait until 2026 to start, you're already late.
So there's a compliance cost of delay here. What does that look like in practice?
GDPR gives us a blueprint. In its first 5 years, Europe saw $4.2 billion in fines. The EU AI Act's mechanisms are comparable, and we expect similar enforcement intensity. But the real cost isn't just fines. It's competitive disadvantage. Enterprises forced into reactive compliance in 2026 lose 12 to 18 months of Agentic AI deployment. Meanwhile, compliant competitors are already scaling autonomous agents and capturing market share.
Agentic AI. That's the word everyone's using now. But what does it actually mean for someone running an enterprise in Eindhoven?
Good question, because it's a huge shift. Chatbots answer questions. Agentic AI systems act autonomously with minimal human intervention. We're talking digital colleagues that execute contracts, update code, optimize supply chains, handle customer escalations. McKinsey estimates autonomous agents could unlock $15.4 trillion in economic value globally by 2030.
That's enormous. But I'm guessing that power comes with regulatory strings attached.
Absolutely. The EU classifies autonomous agents as high-risk AI systems if they're making financial commitments, altering data, or interfacing with customers. For a manufacturing hub like Eindhoven, you could use Agentic AI for predictive maintenance, production scheduling, quality control, potentially reducing downtime by 30 to 40%. But you have to document decision logic, training datasets, and implement human-in-the-loop oversight for any high-impact actions.
So it's not that you can't deploy Agentic AI, it's that you have to do it with governance architecture in place from day one.
Precisely. And that's where the concept of AI lead architecture becomes critical. You need someone designing your AI systems with compliance woven in, not bolted on afterward. That's the difference between a company that speeds to market and one that gets regulated into a corner.
Talk us through what an AI readiness strategy actually looks like. What should an enterprise be doing right now?
First, you need a governance maturity scan. AetherMIND's readiness scans are designed for this. You're mapping where you are today. Which AI systems are deployed? Which are high risk? Do you have transparency logs? Are training datasets documented? This gives you a baseline. Second, you develop a compliance roadmap tied to the August 2026 deadline. And third, you start building governance infrastructure, policies, audit trails, human oversight frameworks, as you deploy new AI.
Is there a risk that enterprises focus purely on compliance and lose innovation momentum?
That's the wrong frame entirely. Governance and innovation aren't trade-offs, they're interdependent. Companies with mature governance frameworks actually innovate faster because they understand their risks, their data, their models. They can deploy AI confidently. Enterprises that skip governance end up in crisis mode, pulling systems offline, retrofitting compliance, losing momentum in the worst possible way.
So the competitive advantage goes to companies that treat governance as infrastructure, not overhead.
Exactly. Trust-first leaders will emerge from this transition. They'll have auditable systems, transparent decision-making, and regulatory confidence. That's not just compliance. That's a business moat, especially in B2B and regulated industries.
Let's ground this in the Eindhoven context. What sectors should be paying the closest attention?
Manufacturing and industrial automation are first priority. You've got Agentec AI in supply chain optimization, predictive maintenance, quality control. Those are all high risk under the EU framework. Semiconductors and hardware design are second. AI in chip design and verification needs governance. And software companies building general-purpose AI models or deploying AI agents as products need to understand transparency and training data disclosure obligations.
What's the biggest mistake enterprises are making right now?
Treating the EU AI Act as a legal compliance problem rather than an operational strategy problem. They're getting lawyers involved, but not architects, not data teams, not product leaders. You need cross-functional governance from the start. Also, enterprises are underestimating the transparency and documentation burden. Every AI system that touches high-risk decisions needs auditable logs and decision explainability. That's not trivial to retrofit.
So, if you're a leader in an Eindhoven enterprise listening right now, what's the one thing you should do this month?
Commission a governance maturity assessment. You need to know where you stand, which AI systems are deployed, which ones carry high-risk classification, what documentation gaps exist. From there, you can build a realistic roadmap to August 2026. Don't guess. Don't wait. You've got 18 months, and that timeline compresses fast when you're trying to implement governance across multiple systems and teams.
Sam, thanks for breaking this down. Listeners, if you want the full deep dive on AI governance maturity, EU AI Act compliance, and AI lead architecture strategy, head over to etherlink.ai and find the complete article. We've only scratched the surface here, and the details matter when you're talking about $30 million penalties and competitive positioning.
And grab that Readiness scan guide while you're there. August 2026 isn't far away, and the enterprises that act now will lead the market. Those that don't, they'll be scrambling.
This is EtherLink AI Insights. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week with more on AI governance, enterprise strategy, and the future of work. See you then.